Is this that JPP podcast?
Tony put it all down on Carolina this week, and now the guys have an airtight strategy to get the house back. Bet against everything they say. Are the Steelers here to stay? Did Dirk Koetter cement himself in the Hall of Fame? And what does Toto have to do with anything? All that and more this week on Just Press Play.
The red wasp is excavated. Pregnant ladies and little kids better get the hell out of the way, because I am running. I'm like Forrest Gump, dude. I am running. So, the Titanic was the biggest ship on the ocean, but that didn't mean it was unsinkable. Okay. All right. I want you each to use ombudsman in a sentence next week. I got one for you. My name is Kevin, the official ombudsman of the Just Press Play podcast. You like apples?
All right, we are back with another episode of the Just Press Play podcast, and we got the whole group with us. And actually, before I intro it out to you guys, Uncle Tony's battling through. He's recording this from the van down by the river after he bet his house down on the Panthers last week. How's it going, Tony?
Well, you know, it's a little cold out here. I got some fire burning outside. I come in and out. So far, nobody has noticed I hooked up to the cabin next to me for water, so I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone didn't get a chance to listen to Sunday. Yeah, we have a new thing, I think, and it's the Just Press Play Kiss of Death, and we put it on the Carolina Panthers this past week because they just got clobbered.
Yeah, because Kevin took care of the Detroit Lions for the rest of the season 2 weeks ago by picking up.
Yeah, so get ready because I'm about to buy another team this week. And
where do I go if I want to bet against you, Kevin?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So if you want to wait, just wait until right after I pick my buys, and then maybe me and Uncle Tony lay down some locks later in this episode. And you can head that right over to MyBookie and put in the promo code JPP and get double your deposit down, and then lay it all down on the opposite of whatever I'm buying. Whoever I'm taking, just go the opposite, and you'll probably win some big money. Hopefully you won't be living in the van down by the river like Uncle Tony, but shout out to rest in peace Chris Farley.
Yeah,
but,
rest in peace.
A perfect segue. Let's get straight to it. And here's teams we're buying this week. And if the story goes as it's been all year, then this will make LJ happy after I put this KOD on. I'm buying the Steelers and Big Ben Roethlisberger. I'm telling you what. As we've been recording all year, as the listener knows, there's been a little heat between Uncle Tony and LJ about whether Big Ben is a good quarterback or not. And at this juncture in the season, one of you is looking right and one of you is looking dumb.
A little foolish,
at this point.
Yep. I think I know which one's the foolish, and it's not the guy in the van.
Surprisingly, you're right. It's not.
You know, I'm not going to call people out like that. You know, everybody's got their own opinions, and you know, LJ is a nice young man, and he just goes astray from time to time. So it's okay. It's okay. He'll come back.
Thank you. I feel a lot better. About that.
I was looking at the state of the Steelers and kind of the reason I was buying them, and just if you look at, they've won 5 in a row, and they've won the past 5. They're done with the Le'Veon Bell. He didn't report Tuesday by the deadline, so his 2017-18 season is over. 18-19 season is done now. And they've scored 30 in 5 of their 9 games. I mean, there's just a lot to like about what the Steelers are doing. I think the defense looked – it's hard for me on Thursday night games. I don't know what we learn always from Thursday night because it just seems like sometimes they're more of an aberration.
Yeah, you learn Thursday night not to play on Thursday night.
That might have been what we learned from last week's episode is just don't bet on Thursday night. They just you never know.
Who was the home team? Who was the home team Thursday night?
Pittsburgh was home. So if you're Carolina, you can kind of chalk that up to a road game, short week, and still be okay.
I just wonder, the stats on a road team on Thursday night. I bet it's. I mean, that would be difficult. That would be.
Now the Steelers they're 7-2, and they're number 2 in the. They're sitting pretty at number 2 in the AFC, and they do have a tough little sled coming in the rest of their games. They will play the Chargers, Patriots, and at the Saints. So they'll have some tough games coming up. and I think you'll kind of get to learn what the Steelers are. But it just seems like this season is just working up to be, and Tony might not want to hear this, but the Chiefs are going to have a great record, and they're going to play a home game in Arrowhead, and Big Ben and the Steelers are going to go in there and beat them, and Andy Reid's going to forget that he had 2 timeouts at the end of the game or something. That's just the way I feel like that's in the future, but we shall see. I'll toss that right over to you, call. Tony. I'll toss it over to you, though. Who are you buying this week?
Okay. And I'm not trying to, get this out there, but I was looking at our list, and I haven't bought these guys yet, so I'll buy them now, and that's the New England Patriots.
Okay. You're coming off a low.
You're buying a dip, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They're on bye this week, but I mentioned it a little bit last week, and as much as I hate to give the guy credit, Bill Belichick really has handled his roster pretty well.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised to see how much Sony Michel hit the field this weekend, but obviously he was healthy, came out of it healthy. But to pull Gronkowski for that game, they are kind of going to come out of the bye week probably the best that they've been in a long, long time, because Gronk could have gone this week if he had to, and so they're sitting at 6-3 with a 2-game lead over the Dolphins.
They're 7-3.
7-3. I forgot. Yeah, 7-3 with a 2-game lead on the Dolphins in the AFC East. They're a lock for the playoffs. I think they're pretty. They may have. They'll that game between them and the Steelers will be for that first round bye. See how that happens. Kevin's prediction could come true with the Steelers being at Arrowhead, but I really like the Patriots coming out of this bye week. They've really set themselves up well to have their guys back healthy and to be ready to make a run.
Right. I mean, I agree with you. Not go ahead and sit in, because clearly something wasn't right with Gronk, and he just didn't look like the same Gronkowski that's been why the Patriots are so good. And you can see that they're not the same offense without that one player that you just can't guard. So it totally behooved them to rest them and let him get healthy. But did you see what Deion Lewis, after Deion Lewis had a big game, did you see him kind of blast the Patriots and say that game was personal and that's what you get for going cheap?
Oh,
well, he just basically, his quote that really stuck out was, that's what you get for going cheap. And this game was personal. And he did have he had a good game.
He had a good game.
Yeah,
I
he did okay.
Him,
no, you can't blame him. You knew that was coming. But dude, going cheap. But all I gotta say, hey, see what's on each one of these 5 fucking fingers, man. It's a ring. Yeah, we're going cheap. I don't know. I will say this about watching that Patriots game this weekend, because I had to watch it because I had fantasy football players going, and I had a big, huge fantasy football game this weekend in the Razorback Fantasy Football League. I don't know, there's someone on the podcast that lost this weekend, lost his first place, lost his standalone on top of the heap position. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. But
I mean, I had to play.
One thing
I had to play Eli Manning at quarterback, for God's sake. Come on.
Hey, congratulations. You're a great manager. So, one of the things I noticed, though, is they were really forcing the ball to Josh Gordon. I don't know if they were trying things out. I don't know if they were seeing how healthy Gordon was, but they really pushed the ball to Josh Gordon. And that's the reason they lost that ball game. Brady was looking at Gordon every single time. He wasn't looking at anybody else. So I'm kind of wondering if they were doing a test right there to see how well Gordon can make it for the rest of the season. You can see that Tennessee bottled him up pretty well. I mean, he had some big plays, but he wasn't, it wasn't a 2-touchdown night for Josh Gordon. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they did that.
Well, and LJ, I think I have a little bit of a Patriots theory, and I think you might have been on this a little earlier in the season. But we've mentioned how Bill Belichick and his disciples leave and how they're not as successful. I think Bill Belichick, the disciples that he's not that worried about, like when it's Josh McDaniels and he knows that he's a smart guy, he wants to go out there and crush him, just absolutely kill him and make him lose the job so he can get him back. But when it's Matt Patricia, like you saw earlier this year, and Vrabel, maybe he's not that worried about Vrabel. He's okay taking that game off. Let's rest Gronk. Let's go ahead and lose. Let's get our guys healthy. Just so, because he doesn't want that narrative to keep going that he's trying to just put all his guys out in the NFL just to make it easier on himself. And then, like Tony said, I don't know. I think Tom Brady and Bill Belichick have benefited from just being a great head coach quarterback combo. But man, they've also benefited from an god awful AFC East. I was looking at the quarterback position in that division.
Yeah.
You got 41-year-old Tom Brady who just keeps on playing. And then the rest of the quarterbacks are 21-year-old Sam Darnold not playing, 22-year-old Josh Allen not playing for the Bills, and 30-year-old Ryan Tannehill not playing for the Dolphins. So the only quarterback that actually can play every game is the 50-year-old Tom Brady that just keeps on ticking.
Well, I don't know. The Dolphins
It's
got
unbelievable.
a Super Bowl champion Brock Osweiler. So,
That is
There you
true.
go. Another one of those former Broncos that LJ can turn into direct ticket and see
By the
every
way,
single game.
you also kiss a death that because CJ Anderson just got cut. So,
Really?
yeah.
I didn't
so
know
thanks for
that.
that.
Oh,
I wanted to watch CJ Anderson in the
about that.
playoffs, but, that's gone now. So,
Yeah, sorry.
Well,
about
at least
that.
I'm good at
That's surprising
something.
to me, but anyway,
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
will pick them up.
yeah.
All right, El, who are you buying this week?
Well, I've been buying dirt cheap, and it hadn't worked any better for me. So I'm gonna buy a team that I like, and I'm gonna pick the Bears because man,
There we
Khalil
go.
Mack is just a monster.
Oh my God, that play he had this past week after he sat out for a couple weeks, and then he had this play where he straight up just basically bench pressed the tackle,
Yep.
and then the running
Yeah.
back tried to come over there. He just threw him to the ground and then jumped on the. I mean,
Yeah.
I know Belichick said he can't compare anybody to Lawrence Taylor, and I didn't get to watch a lot of Lawrence Taylor. But if there was someone doing things much better than what Khalil Mack's doing this year in Chicago, I want to watch some film on it because man, he's impressive.
Yeah. So I'm all
We
about
talked
those
about
Bears.
that early in the season. Yeah, that's right.
Tony, I know you saw Lawrence Taylor. I mean, you got to admit, right? I mean, Khalil Mack, he reminds you a little bit of that, doesn't he?
Other than the fact, I think he's bigger than LT.
He might be bigger and stronger.
LT wasn't that big of a guy. I mean, for the time he was, but Khalil Mack it's kind of like DeMarcus Ware was for that 2 or 3 year period when DeMarcus Ware was just like, oh geez, somebody just tie him up or hold him. We'll take the penalty. Just don't let him hurt me. And there were a couple of years there where DeMarcus Ware was that way, but Khalil Mack, yeah, when he's healthy, he's good. He's no Joey Bosa, but
Well, LJ, I wanted to ask you on that buy since you're there in Chicago. Maybe you have a feel for how the fans are thinking. But where do you stand on Trubisky? What do we think? Is he good? Is he?
So what do I think, or what do the people here think?
Well, I want to know what you think. What do you think?
I would say that Trubisky is a quarterback that has some good help, so therefore he's a young quarterback. We'll see what he is in 5 years more than what we'll see. Like, I'm not calling him a MVP or anything like that, but the city of Chicago, all about him. Give me some more Trubisky, says Chicago. So
now, are they I think the city of Chicago might just be a little love drunk on Trubisky, and they're kind of talking themselves into him, because he does show some moments. Like he had that 6 touchdown game earlier this year, and then
This
he was
game was
great
great.
this past Sunday.
Yeah.
But then he's also had some games where you wonder what is he really any good? Was he?
But I
worth
think that's the
trading
thing
up
is
for second?
you see those moments and you know that there's something there. And so the question is, can he consistently be that something? And so
Look
that's
who they're
yet to be seen.
comparing him to. Good Lord. I mean,
Who are they comparing him to? I haven't
Cutler,
seen
right?
that.
Jay Cutler was the last potential franchise quarterback that they had there, and he was, a dick and a crybaby and a punk. And
Well,
I mean, am I
disagree
wrong
about all
on any of
Cutler
things?
thoughts.
I mean,
yeah, I think you're definitely right.
Tell us how you really feel.
well, I mean, he was very talented. He was extremely talented, but he was kind of a punk. I mean, it just, he
No,
just seemed
Cutler
to
gets
be
a bad
that.
rep
was a
because he's
punk.
not as passionate as OBJ. I mean, there's no middle. You have to be in the middle ground to be acceptable. And so when he says that I'm injured and I'm going to sit out, people say, "Oh, you're a wuss," and nobody you're just taking plays off. I mean, he's a tough quarterback who he would make bad decisions as a quarterback because he wanted to show off how strong his arm is.
Yes, I agree with that.
But I don't think he was a punk or anything like that. That's my opinion, at least.
That's. I mean,
I'm also a diehard Broncos fan that watched him for
certainly
years.
don't know
so
him
I don't know if
personally,
helps.
but that was the feel I got just watching how he kind of conduct himself. So
I'll say this, Cutler was a good quarterback, and that's a good point. He would try to use his arm, but you know what? I lost a lot of respect for him when I saw his bare ass on Facebook because his wife kept taking pictures of him down in Bali or Baja or wherever the hell they were. I can't respect a quarterback's going to let his bare ass show on media, So
well,
That's what I think.
And
So there's that.
And speaking of your,
But his
speaking
wife
of
is
your
good
Bears,
looking
though.
now. There's another wife we can talk about. I actually started watching that show that little reality show they have.
Cutler
I can't
Cavalier.
remember what that's called, yeah, Christian.
Okay,
yeah,
I'm sorry I brought it up.
Hey,
I'm
let's turn
really
the camera
sorry I brought it up.
Yeah, Tony's between Jay Cutler's ass and his wife. Tony's completely sidetracked now for the rest of the episode.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I know if Jay Cutler's naked, somebody else in that room's naked, and it's not who I want to see.
Alrighty.
So.
Well, and LJ, speaking of that bye of the Bears,
boy.
it will be interesting to see this Sunday night. This upcoming week in the NFL, I don't think the games necessarily like Sunday during the day aren't going to be as great. It'll be good for fantasy football, I think. But then night games, you got Chicago playing Minnesota. That'll be that's huge for that division. And then obviously the Monday night game, we're going to get in that a little bit further here later on with the Chiefs and Rams. But Dad, I want to toss it over to you. Who are you buying?
I'm going to buy, and I looked at Pittsburgh long and hard. I've got to admit, and I thought if I'm buying low, I considered Indianapolis, and I could probably make an argument for them. But I'm going to buy the LA Chargers. And the reason I'm buying the LA Chargers is because they've got, I think, a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, I really think they probably have a Hall of Fame quarterback that is still producing at a very high level. They've got this guy named Melvin Gordon. And
he's good at football.
He's a pretty good football player. This just in. And
not bad.
That's analysis right there.
He was 75
he played against me in this Battle of the Behemoths this weekend, by the way. But at any rate, Melvin Gordon, who was the leading rusher and leading receiver for the LA Chargers, Keenan Allen, and then that young guy, Tyrell, I think it's Tyrell Williams, I believe, that's come in and really made a little noise. So I like Phillip Rivers and the LA Chargers. That's who I'm buying.
I'm with you. I was there last week.
That's a good choice.
Or not last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm with you. They're looking good. And interestingly, I know y'all will like to hear this on the podcast, but a guy that could be returning soon or maybe in December for the Chargers,
I heard that
Hunter Henry. They're saying he might be able to come back off the IR in December.
That'll be big.
I don't know if he can or not, but that would be really big. One thing I like about the Chargers, and I know Tony's going to give me grief about this again, but I just think no one else is acquiring any more talent going further this year. And at some point, Joey Bosa is going to come back, and I think he's going to be a stud. And if Hunter Henry comes back, that's two acquisitions that can make a good team even better.
Oh boy!
Kevin,
just telling you,
Kevin. The world needs believers, so you keep believing. So
all they've done is just keep on winning without maybe their best defensive players. So just saying, if he comes back,
hey, Lifford, what's the best kind of ability?
Availability.
Hey.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Kevin,
that's what I
do got you.
Hey, I will say this. Hey, the thing I was going to say is, I like Lifford's buy, and I thought about him. Man, it has been so tough for me to believe in the Chargers this year. Every year they'll have a 2 or 3 or 4 game winning streak, and all of a sudden it's like, well, man, this is a really bad team all of a sudden for 5 or 6 games. But they have done a really good job of playing good offense, good ball control offense. It really helps when you've got 2 backs that can control the ball for you. With Gordon is definitely their one, but Eckler, he's really good. They've stayed away from injuries. If they can keep both Keenan Allen and Melvin Gordon healthy, they really can make something happen down the stretch. I'd like to see. I'm not sure when they play the Chiefs again, but if they have played them, but that's going to be a really good ball game.
Yeah,
Week 15 they play the Chiefs.
Week 15.
Since we're all in on the Chargers a little bit, I think now's the time to go to MyBookie.ag and bet against the Chargers for the rest of the season.
That's correct.
Yeah, actually.
And guess who they're playing this week, LJ? They're playing the Broncos. It is at LA though.
Yep.
Those Broncos can get in on the spread a little bit. So
yeah, that might not be a bad. We could talk about that. Oh, that's a 7.5.
Okay, what's the line on the game, Kev?
Ooh.
The Broncos are getting 7.5, surely.
Yeah, the Broncos are plus 7.5.
Yep.
Okay.
Plus
That's not a
7.5.
bad bet.
Denver Broncos at LA.
LJ, this is your chance to bet on your team and feel good about it. So,
because that might not happen for the rest of the year. So.
yeah. Hey, if you wait, it might get to 8.5. If you wait a little bit.
We'll see.
It is funny. It is funny, speaking of betting and stuff, we talked about it last week, and then I think the week before even, there was all this stuff about how Vegas is getting killed and Vegas is getting killed. And then you saw a week like this week where Vegas made a killing. And was this not just Vegas putting out all this, like, yeah, we're really taking it on the chin just to try to entice all us regular people to go out there and put our money back out there, put our house note and car payment.
I told you. They took my house. They took my house, man.
Did they call you, Tony?
They didn't build that all that out there on air.
To sell Carolina? Is that what it was? Did you talk to Westgate?
Man, yeah, that little devil up on that right shoulder said, "Him can do anything."
All right, Tony, who are you going this week with? Who you thought they were? Who you thought they were this week?
Okay, so I got to have two. And so it's people. And so I just want to say this so everybody can hear it. Now, I don't know if you guys realize this, but you know what? Matt Barkley won a football game this weekend. I don't know if y'all realize that. And
after being on the roster for like a solid 10 days who we thought he was.
And yeah, props to Matt Barkley. I just had to say that. You wait. It may have been 20-something years. I don't know. But, I don't think he's won a game since he was a USC Trojan. And so congrats to Barkley for that. So anyway, and then I just, I gotta bring Bobby effing Petrino back up again. He is who we thought he was. And now he's fired. He's fired fucking Petrino. So I like that. And that's
we talk about him every week. Maybe we should have him on the show.
All
he
those,
doesn't have a job.
Yeah, I appreciate all those Louisville alumni and boosters who listen to the JPP podcast and me railing on old Bobby Petrino last week and taking care of business. So I appreciate that.
They took care of business. And yeah, like you said, El, we've had enough. We've talked about old Bobby enough. He should come on. There's an open invitation to the JPP podcast whenever Bobby Petrino wants to hop on.
He's got all the time.
He's all the time he needs now.
Well, but he's going to be on the show. He's going to be recording live, and he'll get fired from something else is the problem. So he's probably staying away from any sort of media.
Well, luckily for Bobby, we don't have a ticker on the JPP pod, so there's no way he'll pop up on the scroll that he just got fired while on the pod. So he has that going for him. Speaking of coaches, that's who I'm going to stick with for my who we thought they were this week. And Dirk Koetter is exactly who I thought he was, which is a bad NFL football coach. Did y'all see that for whatever reason, Dirk Koetter decided that he was going to take over the play calling duties from old Mike Munchin, who I don't know if y'all have noticed, the Buccaneers have had a lot of issues this year. Offense has not been one of them. They're like the number one passing offense and number 3 offense in total NFL. And that's with playing musical chairs at quarterback. And Dirk Koetter thought, well,
I can improve.
You know what we need to do? Yeah, I can make that better. I just don't understand. And I want to show you what they did this past week against Washington. It was flat out impressive what they were able to do against Washington. Washington gave up 500 yards and forced Tampa Bay to punt the ball one time. And you know how many points Tampa Bay scored? A field goal. They scored 3. They lost 16-3. And you know I like to throw out stats there, Tony. Since the 1970 merger, 467 other teams have had 500 yards of total offense. In those 467 games, they've averaged 37.3 points per game. With Dirk Koetter taking over the offensive play call, and Tampa Bay found a way to score 3. You got to be kidding me.
Hey, Kevin, here's the thing. It takes skill to do that. Real skill.
It's like we talked about with Hugh Jackson, who also somehow found a job. But what he did at Cleveland was impressive to lose as much as he did with that much talent. And Dirk Koetter, I got to give it to you. How he managed to score 3 points in that game is flat out impressive. I got to give it to you. He must have had the under.
Good Lord.
I had no idea that happened.
And that gets to the next thing where, damn it, because Dirk Koetter and these terrible coaches, they let Washington win another game, and the NFC East is so terrible. We're going to have to watch a god-awful game in Washington where the players don't even like their fans. They were all calling out how bad the fans are. And Alex Smith's going to put up 16 points, and it's going to be like a 16-12 playoff game that we're going to have to watch. It's a mess. So now I'm done. So Dan, who are you going with for your who we thought they were this week?
Mr. Drop the mic.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one right there.
Well, I mean, so I'm going to go completely the other way and meekly say, you know who I think thought he was is Ezekiel Elliott. And you know who he is? Maybe the best running back in the league. I mean, this guy can put his head down.
Well, definitely the best one.
He's the best one playing for the Cowboys. And I mean, he can make a run. He can catch a ball. He can help in pass protection. I think he's a pretty good running back, and so I think he's who I thought they were. I think he's the best player on the Cowboys team. I think he's the best player on the Cowboys team.
That play where he jumped over that Philadelphia Eagle and then almost scored a touchdown, but kind of tripped up. He kept his balance for a little while. If he would end up scoring that touchdown, that might have been play of the year. I mean, when he just straight up jumped over.
Tony
the guy.
looked absolutely shocked. Can we go to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony never guessed it.
Now I'm not one to argue with Dr. Liff. However, in this case, I'm just not buying that. And here's why. And yeah, he may be the most talented running back in the NFL, but he's not the best running back in the NFL. How many touchdowns did he score in that game?
You got to think him, just like Dak Prescott, is handicapped by the play calling.
He's like Todd Gurley. You remember when Todd Gurley had Jeff Fisher for a coach? Huh? Do you remember that?
Well, the first year he did pretty good. Now, so yeah, no, you're right, absolutely right. But I just don't see Elliott with the ability to take over a game.
See, I disagree. I think he has that ability. I really do.
Second grade, he's had what are the Cowboys now? What?
He almost won the MVP as a rookie.
He's had 5 different chances to take over. It's not like they've gotten anyway. I should stop, but I disagree. Well, I just don't think Elliott has the heart that some of these other guys do to really take over a game and carry a team on their back. He's
no Isaiah Crowell. Is that what you're saying?
He's no Isaiah Crowell. There you go.
I do think you're forgetting there, Tony, that there was finally a little creativity out of the offensive play calling for the Cowboys, and you're kind of forgetting that everyone on that offense is playing with their left hand tied behind their back, and that Zeke's actually been pretty impressive playing one-handed and
do you get the analogy?
One
hand behind their back is Jason Garrett. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, I get it.
Like Bill Belichick's motto is he tries to make the other team play as if they're playing left-handed. And the problem is Jason Garrett heard that and was like, that's a good motto, except for he's making his team play left-handed instead of making the other team. Yeah. He didn't get the full memo. So
he was.
I get what you're saying about some of Ezekiel Elliott, because there was some stuff last year where I didn't see necessarily the fire underneath them, but I'm with that. I think he's the best player on the Cowboys roster, and it might be good to get him the ball 20 to 30 times a game. This just in.
Yeah, give him the ball. I agree. I would agree with that, and let's see what he does.
Ella, I think you're going a little different this week with your who we thought they were. Who are you going with this week for?
Yeah, I'm going way off the beaten path. I finally listened to Weezer's cover of Africa, and that is the worst thing to happen. It's like, guys, I listened to it, and it's like it's vaguely worse than the original in every single way. There's not one note that is better. It's like if we decided we really liked Good Will Hunting, so we were trying to figure out which one of us is going to put on a wig and be Minnie Driver. Like it's not useful to remake it shot for shot. We talked about back in the day. A wizard, you see a wizard on the street and he makes you a dollar more attractive, and it's vaguely more attractive, but you can't like visually tell the difference. Well, the Toto's Africa is the dollar more attractive. It's not like obviously any different, but God, it's better in every single way. So why did we do this? I don't know, but that's exactly what I thought it was after you guys described it to me. So I was glad to have that to bring to the table.
Wow. I had no idea. I knew LJ told me he was going a little bit off the beaten path, but I did not realize that's where you're going. That's great.
It's out of left field. Have they legalized marijuana in Illinois? I just wanted to. That's out there, man. I just wanted to make sure.
There's no illegal activity. I just get passionate about my music. Damn it.
Well, how full is your bottle of Malort or whatever that shit is?
Oh, it's pretty empty at this point,
crap.
actually. We got to survive the winter somehow. So,
Okay.
Speaking of Malort, El, who are you going? I'm going to kick it right back to you. Who are you going this week for the team you were crossing off the list of the playoffs?
who's the Malort of the NFL this week?
Yeah, who's the Malort this week of the NFL?
Okay, so I have to give you two, and I'm going to take it real easy. I'm going to go with Oakland and the New York Giants. No big deal.
You are.
They're
You
just
sure
both
are
garbage
taking.
teams. Yep.
Did you see? I don't know if y'all watch. I'm sure you didn't, because there would be no reason to watch many Raiders games unless you were just watching for the other team's fantasy players. But there was at one point where Derek Carr he literally looked like the little kid who was just upset with his parents for not giving him something that he just like pouted his shoulders. He was trying to get the team ready, and he was like, they were doing no huddle, and they just couldn't get ready on time, and they had to take. I think they took a delay game, and then on the fourth down, which the game's out of reach, so it doesn't matter. So it was odd seeing Derek Carr so frustrated, but it was 20-6. They weren't going to end up coming back, and on 4th and 4, he says hut, and he kind of rolls out. And then he like the pressure's not even all the way there. He could try a little harder, and he just throws the ball in the dirt. It was like, F it, I'm done. Screw this. I want to know who makes it to Vegas out of the two. If you were putting odds, is Gruden more likely to make it to Vegas, or Derek Carr? I don't know if Derek Carr makes it to this year.
Gruden all day.
Vegas.
Gruden.
Yeah.
Gruden.
The only way Gruden doesn't go to Vegas is if the Raiders don't go to Vegas. He's going.
I'm kind of thinking Gruden might have had a similar agent to Sam Bradford, like Dad talked about, and he got this contract with an awesome buyout, and he's just trying to see how quick he can get fired in Oakland, because that is just a shit show they're doing down there.
Yeah,
in Oakland.
I don't know if you saw that quote from the man who looks the most like a penis, Mike Davis, but he said,
you talking about Mark Davis?
You
talking about Mark Davis?
Mark Davis.
He said
I'm trying to think of all
Mark
Davis
Davis
that look like penises.
Whatever.
The description didn't do it for you.
Anyway,
There's a couple mics out there right now listening. Like, what?
Anyway, he said you need to look to him for all the moves that the Raiders have done. He said, "Don't go talking to Gruden. Talk to me. This is an organizational move. We're doing this." And I thought that was interesting for him to stand up for his coach, and when he really didn't need to, because nobody really gives a shit.
In that same interview, didn't he say he looks himself in the mirror every morning and thinks about the Raiders? If he looks himself in the mirror every morning, then he's doing something wrong or he's lying. So
he ain't thinking about
that
the Raiders.
mirror is lying to him.
Yeah. Hey, the world needs people like Mark Davis, so it's fine.
Do they?
All right. Speaking of Mark Davis and the Raiders, Tony, who are you going with? Who are you crossing off this list this week for the playoffs?
Oh, I'm just filling in blanks here, and because I went a little juicy last time and took the Packers, but I'm gonna go with the Arizona Cardinals just to fill in the blank. And you know what? That's kind of their season if you think about it. They're just filling in the blank, and it is a true shame to watch Larry Fitzgerald in maybe the last or next to last season of what is a tremendous Hall of Fame career have to go through the struggles that they're going through. Larry Fitzgerald, to me, is one of the top-notch gentlemen in the National Football League and one of the top wide receivers that there's ever been. Well, and to watch him struggle like this is tough. But the Cardinals are not going anywhere this year, and probably not for a couple of years. And I just hope for Larry Fitzgerald's sake that they can hold on long enough for him to make it back to a playoff game, so he can go out in January.
Well, and interestingly, as soon as you brought up the Cardinals, I did want to bring up. You're totally right; they're definitely not making the playoffs. But Fitzgerald did after last week. He's now up to just under 16,000 yards receiving, which puts him above T.O. now. He moved to number 2 all time in receiving yards.
Thank
which
God.
I'm totally with you. Larry Fitzgerald is he's pretty much, I guess, 15 seasons. He's been playing since I've really been watching football. He's been at the top of the game, and he's definitely a Hall of Fame receiver. Seems like a great guy. Does a lot of really good stuff for Arizona and back home in Minnesota. And it does stink to see him, on this last leg on a team that's clearly not even playing for the playoffs. But awesome career.
One thing Larry Fitzgerald that he doesn't get a lot of credit for is he has really mentored a lot of today's wide receivers. They come out there for his camp. that he does for those NFL players and just certain ones. And they come out there, puts them on the right path. He gives them a lot of good work ethics, a lot of good things to do. Just a stand-up guy, and I hope he can stay in the game a couple more years so they can make the playoffs.
And interestingly, it seems like every time we talk about like great receivers, this guy's name pops up for good reason. But it just, once again, you start looking at these numbers, and Fitzgerald's had an amazing career, really been able to stay away from injuries for a lot of his career, and his numbers are great, and still is nowhere close to Jerry Rice's record of receiving yards. It amazes me every time they start throwing up record books and you see that Jerry Rice is just, there's every good receiver, and then there's Jerry Rice that's so up above all of them. It's just amazing.
I don't know, LJ or Kevin, if y'all ever got to see him play.
I saw him on the Raiders stint when it was pretty much,
man,
very smooth.
This cat, Jerry Rice is the smoothest player I've ever seen. It was just effortless to watch him play football. And much like Emmitt Smith, who went through his career without a really big injury, Jerry Rice did the same thing because they did it the right way. Jerry Rice was really fun to watch. It blows my mind every time they start throwing up the stats of all-time receivers, and just the fact that he's just head and shoulders above everyone. It's just
never even close.
Just real quick.
I drafted Jerry Rice in a fantasy football league. So there you go.
Yeah.
Congrats.
I did too. Somebody he reminded me of, and I don't know if you guys ever watched him, and his career got cut short by Al Davis, but Marcus Allen. Marcus Allen was one of those guys that was smooth, looked effortless, and was just a great running back, one of the best of all time. And
I never got to watch much. I never watched much at all.
He was good. He was so good.
Yeah. For those folks out there who are octogenarians, or however old that is, 50? Anyway, that's 80, isn't it? No, not that old. Anyway, for those of you who are out there who have been watching football for a while,
Pinto, that's a bean.
Good Lord.
Marcus Allen cemented his Hall of Fame credentials in Kansas City when he scored 22 touchdowns in a season. He became the original touchdown vulture. When the Kansas City Chiefs got within 5 yards, he was scoring touchdowns just all over the place. You couldn't stop him. And it really put him, and he was like 10, 11 years in the league, something like that. And
he had fresh legs because Al Davis didn't let him play for about 2 years. It was watch whatever that Football Life of Marcus Allen sometime. It's a very interesting what happened to him.
Yeah, who did Marcus Allen marry? He married somebody famous. Or am I thinking of Rodney Peete? Never mind.
Tony and people's wives. He's always
wrong USC guy.
He's into wives and quarterbacks' butts for some reason. I don't know. I'm a little concerned about it.
Well, before we get too far off the rails, I'm going to go ahead and move this conversation over. Dad, who are you crossing off your playoff list this week?
Well, I really thought about crossing the Atlanta Falcons off. I came close to crossing them off because they got beat by Cleveland.
I wish you would.
But I looked right below them in the standings in their same conference and found that Tampa Bay is one game behind them. And as Kevin so cleverly mentioned earlier, they have a new offensive coordinator. So I'm taking the newly anointed offensive coordinator, Dirk Koetter, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm crossing them off. They're not making the playoffs.
You made me think of something else there, Pops. So do you remember, was it Koetter earlier this year that was like, if anyone needs to get fired, they need to, it starts with me. He already called for his own job. And then if you couldn't put any more, we talked about us putting the kiss of death. He's going to go out and say, I'm taking over the play calling duties. And then they do that. So you're like, here's the problem. The problem is me, guys. If there's one issue here at Tampa Bay, it's your head coach. That's what Dirk Koetter's telling everyone.
Now I'm thinking, Kevin, you may have caught a call for help. Dirk Koetter may be down there. Please, Jesus, somebody get me out of this place. Please, Jesus. I think I'll go call it. Please, take me out, please.
I like Dad's new name change. I like Dad's new name change to Dirk Koetter. I think that might be his
Richard Koetter.
Richard.
So
I knew a guy in college. We called him Richard.
Yeah.
What a story! That was a fantastic story.
We called him. Dick for short.
Yeah. As scintillating as that story was, I think we're going to head on to the team I'm crossing off the playoffs. And LJ, LJ was ahead of the curve here, and I think the week I was buying the Eagles, LJ was crossing them off the playoffs, and I have to just say I can't figure them out. I don't know what is wrong with the Eagles. I guess it's the Super Bowl hangover.
They ran into those buzzsaw Cowboys, Kevin. That's what happened.
Well, yeah, they come off a bye week. They have 14 days. They go get some receiver help. They make the trade for Golden Tate, and they're going against the Cowboys, where I think there's plenty of film you could watch to figure out how to play the Cowboys. And apparently, they didn't get any of it. They didn't get any of that film. And as Dad said, the buzzsaw that is the Dallas Cowboys just took them out. And just like we were talking last week with the Cowboys losing, the Eagles now dropped to 4-5, and their schedule, we thought the Cowboys schedule was looking rough. The Eagles now go at New Orleans. They're going to have to play the Redskins twice, at Dallas, at Rams. They play Houston, and then they play the Giants. I mean, they're going to have to, even if they can somehow split those games at New Orleans and at St. Louis, they're going to need to sweep the Redskins in their home and away, and then probably win the Houston or Dallas game, one of those two. I mean, I just don't, for them to even have a chance at the division, they're going to need all of that to happen. I think they're done, and I can't figure out what's wrong. There's talent all over the roster, and they just, I don't know. Guess it's just a hangover.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it could be, but I'll tell you what, on that game with the Cowboys, their defensive secondary has just gone to shit. I mean, it's just terrible. They can't cover anybody. When Alan Hearns has 20-yard catches, I think. When Alan Hearns
he had made a sighting all year.
You're not good. And so regardless of Amari Cooper, you're not good. And here's the other thing about that Cowboys Eagles games. I'm not going to talk about the fact that Zach Ertz just put up ungodly fantasy numbers and beat me in $1,000 league. I'm not going to talk about that.
Oh my God.
But what I am going to talk about is how complicated does an offense have to be for Golden Tate not to be able to pick that shit up? I mean, if you go get Golden Tate and he 2-3 catches and
didn't barely get used.
He is a Cowboy killer. How complicated does your offense have to be where Golden Tate is ineffective and he's just an absolute non-factor in a game, in a conference game? It's just ridiculous. I don't know what Doug Peterson was thinking. He should have just gone to Golden Tate and said, hey, do a 5 and out. These guys can't cover you. We'll hit you all day long. But I don't know what they were doing, but Golden Tate was an absolute non-factor, and he has killed the Cowboys every single time that he's played them. I don't know why they didn't capitalize on that or why he was not a bigger part of their game plan.
And I wonder, I don't think Doug Peterson's a bad coach. I mean, hell, he just won a Super Bowl and put on a show last year. But I wonder what the loss of Frank Reich is, because you see him in Indianapolis and what Andrew Luck's been doing. They look really good offensively. And like Dad was saying earlier, you could make a case for them maybe making the playoffs this year. And I just think we kind of got on Reich a little earlier for that fourth down play that he screwed up early in the year. But like you mentioned, he's a first year head coach, and now the Colts look as good as they've looked since Luck got there. And this just in, Luck's still really good at football.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, Kevin, that is a great observation. I hadn't thought about that. That is a really good pull. That Frank Reich may have been
he may have been something that tied Wentz and Peterson together. Yeah. Maybe there was something he was doing in the room. I don't know.
He didn't play cornerback for him, so I don't know if he's going to help him there. But they're really bad in the secondary right now.
So I wanted to, before we got out of here, I wanted to bring up some of the Monday Night Football game. I don't know if you watched any of this past Monday night game. It was basically just a big promotion for this next week's Monday Night Football game with the Chiefs and the Chiefs playing the Rams. And did y'all see, this kind of broke earlier today, that the NFL, that game was supposed to be played in Mexico City, and now the NFL is moving that game to LA because the field conditions are so poor. And basically, what? I was reading. So Adam Schefter, I didn't see that. Adam Schefter was saying that the issues apparently at Estadio Azteca Field in Mexico City, due to having a bunch of concerts, a lot of rain, and a lot of soccer games, that field is a mess. And I'll show y'all. I'll pull up the picture for y'all. We can put it in the show notes. But yeah, SB Nation put a picture of that stadium, and it looks like people have been driving 4-wheelers all over. I mean, it looks terrible.
And lit bonfires. I mean, it's like it's black.
Yeah. Interesting.
And apparently a lot of the players from both teams said that after, because it was kind of started, the conversation started rising yesterday, and then it kind of got more today. And after players saw pictures of it and saw conditions of it, a lot of the players are like, I don't want to risk my long-term health going to play on this crappy field. And they talked about maybe sitting out.
Well, I mean, imagine if like Tyreek Hill gets hurt or Todd Gurley gets hurt in shitty field conditions.
Melvin Gordon's inactive because he's playing on a fucking soccer field. Yeah. Why would they do that?
Well, and it just blows my mind if you're Mexico City, though. It's not like this game came out of nowhere.
This was coming.
A monster of a Monday night game. We've been talking about it for here on the JPP. We've been talking about it for 5 weeks, and we're not the only ones. Everyone's been talking about how awesome this game's going to be, and then it comes down to it, and the field's not ready for it, and they're moving it to LA. One cool thing that came from it, they're moving to LA, and there's a lot of tickets out there. And so what the Rams in LA are going to do with all the extra tickets that aren't sold is they're going to give them to first responders who are taking care of all the fires going on in California. So
that's good.
The NFL is really bad about making good PR moves, and normally they just make themselves look stupid. But that one was a really cool one. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah. That's a good call. That's absolutely right. That's a good one, because I was going to, hopefully we mentioned something about those fires out there. I know a guy I used to work with several years ago that lives out in Chico, between Sacramento and Chico, and that's about, he's probably 50 miles from that Paradise Fire, and that's a really bad deal. So I'm glad the NFL is getting out there and doing something with them. So that's great. That's great.
That is great. I agree.
Are y'all worried at all? Like, the Rams defense has been kind of shown to be like Swiss cheese the past few weeks. Does that bother y'all at all? I mean, the Saints threw all over them, and then last week the Seahawks ran for 273 on them.
Kansas City's going to score some points.
Here's a stat
for sure, but I mean, I think it's going to be a high scoring affair.
Yeah.
Can you guess the point total, the over under for it?
Oh God, let me think.
58. Is it on yet? It's not on yet, is it?
I got a point total for you.
60. Somewhere in there.
All right. Yeah.
The line actually started at it started Rams -1, and since it moved to LA, it's now Rams. I think it's moved to 3 or 2.5. But the over under right now, it opened up at 63.5. And if that stands, that will be the highest since 1986. I'm not sure which game was higher, but and honestly, I'm probably taking the over on 63.5. I mean, there's going to be some points scored in that ball game.
Yeah, I would think it's higher than 30-30. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. That's going to be a great game, and that's something that the NFL really needs. Just have two great teams playing in a game like that outside of the playoffs, and so it'll be entertaining. Lots of scoring, lots of the things that people are looking for these days. It's a good thing, and I am glad they're playing in LA. I'm surprised they didn't try to find a neutral site for them to play at. That the Chiefs want more.
That's actually something I found really interesting. Is apparently every time they play an international game, the home team has to keep their stadium open as a rule to cover for this kind of thing, which that totally blew me away, because that means every time the Jaguars play a home game in London, that means that stadium is empty that weekend. I saw that. I'm
right there with you. I thought that was interesting too, because I wanted to know why LA got it and why not, and I was reading that. Yeah, that's how
Jacksonville Stadium's empty every weekend. What's the difference?
Well, and that's another good
Jimmy
thing.
Buffett coming through on a bi-weekly basis, I think. So.
And that's the good thing about the LA stadium. It's usually pretty bare too during games. The fans don't really show up for those games very often, but if they're going to show up for any game, this would be the one to show up to.
Sit in the Coliseum. Yeah, you're right.
That'll be a big game to watch, and I hope Jason Witten really prepares, because he's going to be on full display. So I hope he's got his situations in order and all his different breakdowns in order, because he'll be on full display. But I think that's all I got this week. Job, anything else y'all wanted to add? before we go
Well,
out
I
here?
just have, we got what was that? Who was that Tony said bet the house on last week? We barely touched on it, but what team was that?
That
Tony
was
said bet
the
house on?
Panthers going at
Carolina
Pittsburgh.
Panthers.
Yeah, and
Carolina
I think
Panthers.
Ben Roethlisberger was 22 of 25. He threw 3 whole incompletions, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Wow, I mean that was a missed call, I think. Wasn't it?
You know what's impressive about what just happened for the listeners? Dad just called out Tony and I on having opposite opinions at the exact same moment. Yeah, it's really impressive.
That's a twofer. That is a twofer. Yeah. So I will say this about that game. Here's the thing about that game: there were the throw that Cam Newton made for the pick six, and then they had another crucial turnover right there in the first half. That set the tone for the rest of the game. And I said something last week about the Rams coming back against the Saints and scoring 21 unanswered, even though they were way down and the Saints were just knocking them upside the head. But they came back and fought back in it. The Panthers, they laid down, and that was concerning to me. I hadn't seen that before out of them this year, and that is a concern. That is a concern. And I will say this, that the Steelers, now that the Le'Veon Bell fiasco is apparently over for 2018, can probably turn around and rally around Connor. He should clear concussion protocol. It wasn't like a huge, I think he'll be fine.
I'm pretty sure concussion's a concussion. There's not like severity levels.
Yeah,
well,
that's accurate.
Well, I mean, he came back and played after the hit, and then they just sent him off and said, "Hey, get out of here. We'll save you for next week because we've got these pansies in our pocket." And so, so I think they had it. I think now that Le'Veon Bell is out, I can now drop my second round pick and and go get Samuels, the rookie that's backing up Connor. But I thought that was interesting that Carolina laid down like that. That's a big difference between them and the Rams and all of. I've picked them for the playoffs. If you can't pick yourself up after that, that's going to be tough.
Who do they play this week?
My only call this week, Kevin, real quick. This is a big week for the NFL as far as whether you are going to be a playoff contender or a playoff. Gee, I hope these people lose. There are several games out there starting on Thursday night that are really going to start to separate some teams. The Packers and the Seahawks are playing. I took the Packers to be out of the playoffs last week. They're at the Seahawks. Seahawks are coming off a tough loss, but they really play the Rams a good game. I still think they're a playoff team. You'll see that one go. Bengals at Ravens. That's going to be the death knell for Harbaugh if the Bengals come to town.
We could get a Lamar Jackson sighting in that game.
We could. We actually could, and we'll see that he's really not ready to be an NFL quarterback.
I think you're wrong, but
in my personal opinion,
I would agree with
you. Got the Cowboys and the Falcons. The loser of that game is probably out.
So what you're telling me is there's a lot of loser leave town kind of game where the loser's pretty much packing them up and getting ready for the offseason.
Yes. Absolutely. I think that there's a lot of cool ones. The Titans and the Colts. Here's Tennessee on a roll. The Colts are on a roll. That's a conference. That's a division game. Man, that's going to be a great game to watch, to see who comes out of that. And they'll probably, whoever comes out of that probably takes the reins in their respective divisions. And so there are some really good games out there to have, and the Vikings and the Bears Sunday night.
There's some big games.
Really,
there's definitely
really great game. This may be one of the best weeks of NFL matchups that I've seen in quite some time. You end Monday night with the Chiefs at the Rams. It's really, really some good football.
We mentioned Le'Veon Bell, and real quick before we go out of there, I don't know how this ends up for him. Maybe he makes a ton of money and it all works out for him. But has Le'Veon Bell now solidified himself that the 2018 Le'Veon Bell is the worst fantasy pick probably of all time? Because I bet he went number 1 and 2 in most leagues before. Because when my league drafted, it was still thought, he says he's coming back when the season starts. Like he was still saying he'd be back for week 1. So I bet he went 1 or 2 in a lot of drafts, and to not play at all.
But the thing is almost everybody that picked up Bell, if they had a brain, probably picked up Connor too.
Well,
So
I think you'd be surprised
whether or not.
I think
our
Connor
league,
went
for whatever
earlier
reason,
than
our
that.
league didn't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying because it was pretty obvious Connor was going to have at least the first couple games. And if you watch Le'Veon Bell play, whoever's his backup that gets the first 4 games,
It's worth-
D'Angelo or D'Angelo Williams. Is that right? Yeah. So
that's who.
like a smart owner picked him up, and you're good to go.
That's who won in all this, or the Steelers' offensive lineman, because it's been over and over again, like you said, El. When Le'Veon Bell doesn't play, whoever comes in, like D'Angelo Williams or whoever, just it's like they put them in and just keep on ticking. They might not be quite as good as Le'Veon Bell, but they're one of the best running backs in the NFL behind that offensive line every time they plug them in.
And I'm not here to talk trash about Ben Roethlisberger right this second, but I would like to know
But you will.
just how much time that man had. Well, no. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying look at how much time that line gave him. Like, that line is one of the best lines. in
Yeah, we were
football.
giving Mike Tomlin a lot of shit earlier in this year about their locker room and stuff. And that team, like you said, El, the offensive line is blocking really well. The receivers, we've talked about their receivers before. There's talent on if they can figure out the defense, there's talent all over that offense. And then there's that big old behemoth at quarterback.
I got to share this. So I looked up some coaching records, all-time coaching records. You know who's number 2 active in win-loss percentage? Obviously, number 1 is Belichick.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Mike Tomlin.
Jason Garrett? Oh.
Mike Tomlin.
Oh, no.
Mike Tomlin is the second. He's number 15 on the overall list.
One thing that makes Mike Tomlin special, though, is he did take over a team that won the Super Bowl 2 years before he got there. Like, he didn't take over some bad team and have to build it. So,
but he's maintained it, pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. He's done a great job, I think.
And like LJ says, the Rooneys aren't the type of program or the type of organization that's going to get rid of a guy just because of one bad year. Like, they'll weather one bad year just to go, we trust the process over this one.
What if they had Noel Cowher and now Tomlin in my lifetime? And I've been around a while. That's since the 70s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And to go back to that Bell thing, if there's ever been an opportunity for somebody to have a good reason to fire their agent, it's Le'Veon Bell. Because it wasn't until 2 weeks ago that they all of a sudden realized, even if we play this year, they could still slap a transition tag on us and have someone have to bid so high to match the Steelers' offer that we're screwed. So now you're 8 games in. It's like, well, why am I playing now? Because they're still going to transition me next year. And then I think if I read correctly, there is a clause in the National Football League Players Association agreement that they could slap the quarterback franchise tag on Bell for 2019 and still put him in the same situation that he's in this year, whether he plays a down or not. And so all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute. So if I had played from the first game on, I could have gotten traded.
There's a difference, though. There's a difference, though, that the quarterback franchise tag would have got him instead of $16 million to like around $25 million.
Yeah, puts him around the $25 million.
That's what he's looking for in a contract. He wants longevity, but also I think he would take getting paid $25 million a year. So I do think that could work out in his favor.
So you think that they knew that?
No, I think LJ, they didn't realize that until it got reported.
No, definitely not. I'm just saying I think it works out.
Okay.
I think his agent's done him a disservice. No, I think you're on to something. Yeah. We decided he needed Sam Bradford's agent is what he needed.
Yes, he does.
But the one good thing, though, is that at the very least, I would think that this discourages someone else from doing this, because I just think it's just not good that a football player is not out there playing football, and it's just a bad deal.
Earl Thomas is listening to this at home, going, well, maybe Le'Veon Bell's right. So
Jerick McKinnon is.
I get both sides of it. But like we said on Sunday, and like you're saying, the only thing is if I'm going to hold out for the year, my agent better know every damn thing about this agreement. There better not be anything that surprises me 8 weeks into this holdout that I'm dropping millions of dollars a week.
No doubt.
I don't know if Bell realizes that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is not a real agent. Ballers is not real.
All right.
Chicks don't walk around in bikinis and half bikinis just because you live in Miami. Maybe they do for Jay Cutler, but
I don't know.
I don't know.
Not for normal.
Tony, I was in Miami not long ago, and there are a lot of girls walking around in half bikinis.
Before we get anybody in trouble, we might need to get this bad boy off the recording. I think that'll do it for this week's episode of the JPP. By the way,
he wasn't lying, Tony.
We mentioned the Steelers that they're done. I put the kiss of death on them, so go put them on MyBookie and put in the promo code JPP and get double your deposit. Put that money down. Go win that car payment that you lost after betting on Uncle Tony's bet.
That's right. Hey man, the Detroit Lions are back at home with a plus in front of them. Boy, there it is. I'm going to get my house back. I'm going to get my house back this week on the Lions.
You can't win if you don't play.
Win if you don't play. That's right.
Shooter, keep shooting.
All right. That'll do it for this week's episode. Peace out.
Peace.
All right. When I count down from 3 and get to 0, we will all clap. 3, 2, 1, 0. All right. That sounds pretty solid.
Does that help? I mean, how does that help? How do they know who's clapping? How does Hannah, if she's doing it, know whose clap is who's clapping?
Well, they're on different tracks.
Oh, yeah.
So then all I have to do, if you look, you can see where we clap. There's like a big line, and it all matches up. Do you see it going across your screen right now?
Yeah.
And so all I got to do is make sure, or Hannah has to do, is make sure that those lines are at the exact same moment, and then the rest of the show's in sync.
Oh, I missed the
Dab's just like, oh, wow.
I'll take a screenshot while we're working on it and show you how exactly it can like line up and make sense.
Is that the line? There's one that lines up pretty good.
Man, I tell you what, you just tell Hannah. I just tell Hannah that I just owe her a lot of money for putting that little thing in there in last week's podcast. You know, so that people didn't go out there trying to drink 160.
Yeah, we don't want to get sued.
Thank you very much.